Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, we're going to go over the market, we're going to go over Tesla, we're going to go over what has happened, what we can expect moving forward, and all of that good stuff. So as usual, if you enjoy these videos, find them useful, helpful, informative, whatever, don't forget to hit the like button, it does help a lot. And again, I am not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, make your own decisions, do your own research, but the market has officially closed and Tesla looks like it will be closing up about 0.55%, putting Tesla just shy above $192. So compared to the market, Tesla arguably, I don't know, hard to say. It's performing in line with SPY, but it's definitely underperforming tech in general. A decent amount, I would say, not crazy, but enough to kind of, I guess, notice it, if you will, right? But that's not the thing that we really care about too much, right? Tesla is always doing its own thing regardless. The thing we do really care about is, well, what the hell even happened today? Because Tesla at one point was actually pretty much back at more or less $200, $199.41 roughly, right? And it pretty much gave all that up once again, exactly the same situation as yesterday, and closed well below that level again, right? Pretty much closing almost at yesterday's level, thankfully above it, which is still a decent sign for the bulls. But, it's not super convincing for the bulls. You know what I mean? It's not the most bullish close in the world at all, right? It's arguably like a slightly more bearish than bullish, but also not a lot more bearish in my opinion. The way I look at this kind of day is kind of an undecided day. It feels like the market is trying to digest what happened yesterday after the Fed FOMC meeting. And it's having issues really digesting it properly. It's having issues figuring out what exactly, just happened. What's next, essentially. You know what I mean? It's having a lot of issues. But I do think it is definitely leaning more towards being bearish than bullish. Just again, not substantially just yet. Not yet. It could be. And if we see signs that prove that to be substantially more bearish, then, of course, I'll let you guys know. But as it stands right now, for me at least, just my opinion, of course, slightly more bearish, but not like a lot more, maybe like 60-40, even 55-45, you know what I mean? Something like that, right? The thing that's important to note is the fact that Tesla is still holding above the 21 EMA. We did come almost close to it, like I said yesterday, so we did go lower than yesterday. Like I said yesterday, I think we'll go up to about, mid 180s. Came down to about 187 actually, or 188, I guess. Which is not as low as I thought. I still think there's a chance to go a little bit lower. I did expect it to go closer to 185 than this. It didn't get as close as I expected it to, right? So I thought it'll come down pretty much to at least 186. But it got to 188, so not that far off. It's in the ballpark. But we did make that downturn. Like I said, we did talk about that, and that did finally happen. But again, the way I'm looking at it as of right now is actually quite simple, guys. As long as we're in this, quote unquote dead cat, bear flag, whatever you want to call it, right? As long as we are in this current ascending channel, bear flag, whatever, technically it's short-term bullish. And when I say short-term, I mean short-term. I mean like at most the next week, really. I really like not much more than that, unless something crazy happens, which it can. But as it stands right now, it is, in my opinion, still short-term, very short-term bullish. That can change very fast because again, the reason I personally don't day trade is because the lower time frame you look at a stock, or the lower time frame you're like trading it, or quote unquote investing, or whatever, the shorter the time frame, the higher the risk. If this is time and this is risk, as time goes down, risk goes up. And as time goes up, risk goes down, which is why, there's the typical like, oh, just buy the dip and hold and never sell kind of thing, right? That's why, technically that, I guess, philosophy of investing usually prevails for most people, more often than not, because, people cannot time the market. It's extremely difficult, of course, next to impossible even, or even just trading the market. And on top of that, also buying and holding, assuming you're doing it to, not a stupid company, of course, tends to just, you avoid the volatility, you avoid any potential, issues with that. And you're just buying and holding. And, even though short term it can go like this and do all these crazy things, long term it's most likely on its way up, right? Anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is because, again, the shorter time frame you're talking about, the riskier and more difficult and more volatile it is overall to predict. So just keep that in mind, right? This is why I say that, in my opinion, the very short term is still technically bullish, because we're still inside this channel. If this channel breaks, well, that's an absolutely just completely different story, right? So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. That is extremely important to remember and, of course, as usual, consider. So I still wouldn't be surprised if we do go a little bit lower, potentially again to like this time not that much lower though. 188, 187 ish. But overall, as long as we're To make it simple, as long as we're above at this point, because again, the further the days happen, like tomorrow or like next week, right, we're constantly moving up this like staircase, if you will, right, and then the threshold for it to remain bullish keeps increasing with it, right, as essentially you can see this line is obviously going up and to the right, right, so naturally the level to break, in order for this to truly become bearish, increases with the stock in a sense, right? So, in this case, because today already happened and now we have tomorrow to look forward to, the level of it potentially breaking and starting to look bearish has slightly increased. So today, for instance, the level was arguably around 185, I would say. Now for tomorrow, it's arguably around 187 maybe, right? Just keep that in mind. That's important to understand. The RSI is also making I want to say it's making a bearish divergence, but it's like, technically it is, I would say, because, the stock, the RSI is noticeably lower here. You can see between these two red candles right here, these two massive ones right here, right? Noticeably lower, the RSI, and the stock did go lower, but it's not as noticeable. But because the stock technically did actually go lower and it closed the candle lower than this one, it's technically also just following the RSI. So that's why I wouldn't put too much weight into it. I brought it up just for the sake of something to keep an eye out, because it can develop into something that's definitely concerning. As it stands right now, not too concerning in my opinion, not yet at least, right? So keep that in mind as well. So one thing, I wouldn't be surprised if we come up to 200 one more time, like this, and then the RSI only goes up to like here, for instance. That's when things will, in my opinion, start getting concerning. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition or not, right? But that's something I'm definitely kind of waiting for. And like, again, the way Tesla is right now and the way it's trading as of today, it's also not in a very good position to trade yet, in my opinion. Now I haven't made any trades today. I still had that one sold put I did yesterday at market close. I'm still holding it, right? So I have a total of 3 sold puts, which again, relative to my portfolio is not a lot, right? And I'm not adding anything more right now because it's kind of in limbo land. It's not really doing a whole lot. The VIX actually did bounce again, which is, interesting. It did reject at this level that it broke down under, but it did bounce similar to yesterday. Once again, a pretty damn bullish looking bounce. And the VIX is green while the market is green, which to me is usually a bit of a red flag. That's a pretty big one to me. So if the market's red or green and the VIX is green, that's, tells me that we're about to experience a potential reversal. That to me is a reversal signal. Again, it's not, the one signal to rule them all sort of thing, right? Just because that happened doesn't mean it has to, but it's a pretty big one in my opinion. So keep that in mind, which can absolutely affect Tesla. But with that being said, right, as long as we're in this channel and as long as we're essentially above like 186-ish, give or take, we'll say for now to make it simple, technically, in my opinion, Tesla is very short term still bullish. The one thing that's not great is if we go to like a shorter time frame, is the fact that we did pretty much get rejected almost at 200 once again, right? So the more times we get rejected at 200, the more bearish and the less bullish it becomes. However, there is a caveat there, and the caveat is quite simple. So if Tesla keeps getting rejected, that's obviously not great. However, as long as Tesla, after the rejection, is consistently making higher lows, that's not too bad. Technically, it's not doing that here because it got rejected, it went to here, got rejected again, and then it went all the way down even lower. But as long as it doesn't break this channel, it doesn't matter too much, because the way I look at it is what cracks first. Does this whole situation here crack first, or does this situation here crack first? That's kind of what I'm waiting for, to see where it happens. You know what I mean? And that's personally what I think, you should be, in my opinion at least, waiting for if you're looking to make a trade, right? Because right now it's kind of in limbo land, right? Because it's extremely difficult to predict which one will crack. Is it going to crack up here and move up to that 210, 215 level that we talked about? Maybe it'll just go up to 201 once again, and then from here this will crack first, and then boom, now it's bearish. Maybe from here it'll just go straight down and crack. That's also bearish, right? But you want to be. That's why I personally don't just like trade every single day, and I rarely day trade as well, unless I'm extremely confident or honestly just extremely bored. Because it's in limbo land, and you don't want to make trades where it's still, it literally can go either way. I know it's like the classic meme of it can go up or down, but in this case it absolutely can. So you want to wait for those like confirmation levels to crack or to break and see which one is first. Very important, right? And I saw a lot of people say how like, oh, I saw Tesla break 200, I bought and now I'm back holding. You have to keep in mind, like, guys, when it breaks something like 200 and it can't even close like even a 5-minute candle, let alone like a 15 or something like that, you don't want to buy on that, guys. That's assuming you're trading. You don't want to buy on that. That is very, very, that's not that's not good, right? You don't want to do that, right? You want to see candles actually close, and you want to see some kind of actual hold above these key levels, or else it's just a fake out. Really, it's all it really is. And it's hard. It's easier said than done. But if you can't even close a 5-minute candle, come on, right? obviously some, it's pretty weak. That's not good. You don't want to see that. Anyway, that's essentially the main thing I am personally seeing. Taking a quick look again, so we're still bouncing off the emo, which is short term to potentially, arguably medium term bullish, right? You can make that argument there. The Bollinger Band is still kind of trying to contract a little bit here. We're still above the 50 and the 100, and the 50 is still crossed over the 100, which is actually, again, more bullish than bearish, and we are still above the 5 and the 10. So the way I view it is technically very short term. I think Tesla is still more bullish than bearish, slightly longer than short term, like very short term. I think it's more bearish, pretty much medium term. I think it's actually more bearish than bullish, but long term, I think it's more bullish than bearish. So again, if it makes sense, for that to make ultra, simple sense, very short term, I think there's a chance we still go here. Medium term, I think this happens here. Long term, I think we go, to the moon, as everyone says. You know what I mean? I hate using that because it just makes you sound like an idiot. But pretty much to the moon. Long term. Again, this is when I say long term, I don't mean even a year, not even maybe 2 years. I'm talking about like 5 years, guys. 5 years, 4 years, maybe 3 years at least. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. Very short term, definitely, it can make a very strong argument for being bullish. Medium term, very strong argument for being bearish, and on long term, a very strong argument for being bullish once again. But that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. So let me know what you think down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. On top of that, it also does seem like the RSI is essentially making its little bear flag as well, as you can see here, and then usually it follows up with another move to the downside. So just keep that in mind, guys, right? I do think we're probably going to come to this point at some point, which most likely will be us coming down to around that 140-ish level or so. So I'll be very excited if we get to that level, but we'll see. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you find these videos helpful and informative. But until then, thanks for watching. Peace.